The city lit up on another ordinary night as luxury cars and honking horns filled the avenues. In the leather seat of an imported sedan, one of the most powerful men in the country faced the traffic with the impatience of someone who always controlled time to his advantage. Ricardo Alencar, CEO of a business empire worth billions, was the very picture of success. An impeccable suit, a luxury watch, and a cold gaze that had become accustomed to winning any negotiation. But behind this impeccable facade lay a past he never spoke of. Years before, when he was still a young man on the rise, he had experienced an intense and brief passion with a simple woman. She disappeared from his life as quickly as she had entered, taking with her memories that he forced himself to bury in the name of ambition. He never heard from her again, and never knew that this encounter could have left a mark greater than memories. That night, stopped at a red light, his car window was lightly cracked. Two children, their clothes worn and their small hands holding boxes of candy, stared at him with eyes that seemed to pierce through his steel armor. One detail froze him. The boy's gaze reminded him of the reflection he saw every morning in the mirror, and the girl's shy smile brought back memories of the woman he once loved. His heart raced, something inside him telling him this encounter was no coincidence. The most powerful man on the avenue had discovered, in the most unlikely of moments, that destiny had just presented him with the children he never knew he had. Before we dive into this surprising plot, tell me from which city in Brazil you are watching us. Leave a comment and I will respond with gratitude. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and like this video. This will help the story reach more people and ensure you don't miss any of the exciting lessons we have to share. The lighthouse was slow to change that night, but for Ricardo Alencar, time seemed to have stopped completely. The sound of cars, the city noise, the tinkling of the restaurant's windows on the corner, everything faded away when his eyes met those of the two children tapping on his window. He usually ignored situations like this. After all, men like him didn't allow themselves to waste time on what they considered distractions from their daily routine. But something was different. The boy, with his shabby clothes and steady gaze, seemed to carry a strange determination for someone so small. And the girl, younger, smiled shyly, trying to get his attention, offering a box of candy as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. Ricardo, accustomed to million-dollar deals, felt his heart beat erratically for the first time in years. He rolled down the window slowly, almost against his will. "How much does it cost?" he asked dryly, trying to maintain control. The boy answered quickly, but it wasn't the price that struck him, but her voice, deep for his age but firm. Ricardo felt a shiver. That intonation seemed to echo from within him. The girl, with a sweet look in her eyes, added, "If you buy two, we'll give you one as a gift." Her smile pierced his armor like a delicate blade. It was impossible not to remember the woman who had once enchanted him when he was still just a young dreamer. The memory came back like a painful flash. Years ago, still early in his career, he had met Clara, a waitress at a small cafe near the business school. She had a light demeanor, spoke simply, but carried in her eyes the strength of someone who faced the world without losing her sweetness. The two had an intense, brief, and overwhelming romance. However, when his ambition began to speak louder, Ricardo walked away. There was no room for distractions in his climb to the top. Clara disappeared, leaving no note, no number, no trace. He went on with his life believing she had been just a beautiful, distant chapter. He never allowed himself to think about what could have been. But now, faced with those two children, everything seemed to fit together in an unexpected way. The boy had Clara's strong features, his defined brows, and the way he stared, unfazed. The girl, on the other hand, seemed a living image of Clara. Her soft smile, her way of speaking, even the way she tilted her head were the same. Ricardo swallowed hard. The CEO, who faced entire boards of directors without blinking, was about to lose his breath in front of two children selling candy at a traffic light. "Are you guys always around here?" he ventured, trying to hide the lump forming in his throat. "Every day, sir," the boy replied bluntly. "We need to help around the house." The response was like a punch. Ricardo looked at the boy's face and saw himself at 8 years old, helping his father in a dimly lit workshop. He had known what it was like to fight since he was a child, but he couldn't believe that his own children, if they really were in the same situation or perhaps worse. The light changed, but he couldn't move off. Behind him, horns began to honk impatiently. Ricardo parked the car just ahead and took a deep breath. Something bigger was pulling him into this situation. He got out of the car, and the suspicious glances of the surrounding drivers turned to him. It didn't matter. He approached the children, who took a step back, frightened. The girl grabbed her brother's hand as if seeking protection. "What's your name?" he asked, this time in a softer tone. "Lucas," the boy said, maintaining his firm posture. "And she's Anna." Anna. The name echoed within him like a buried memory. Clara always said that if she had a daughter, she would want her name to be Anna, in honor of her grandmother. Ricardo felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. It couldn't be a coincidence. His heart cried out for an answer that reason refused to accept. He took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "And your mother? Where is she?" The two looked at each other, as if carrying a secret that was too heavy for them. It was Anna who answered softly, "Mom is sick. But she always says that Dad was an important man." The impact was devastating. Ricardo felt his legs weaken. The millionaire CEO, who always knew exactly what to do in every business crisis, was facing the biggest negotiation of his life, the encounter with the truth he had ignored for years. Clara's face came back to him forcefully. She might have hidden the existence of her children from him, perhaps out of pride, perhaps out of fear, perhaps because he had walked away without a backward glance. "Where do you live?" His voice came out almost like a request. Lucas hesitated, but answered with the same impressive firmness. "In a simple neighborhood, sir. I can show you if you'd like." Ricardo looked at the luxury car parked behind him, and then at the two children who could be part of him. In that instant, he made a decision that would change everything. He would pursue the truth. No matter what he discovered, he couldn't let those children remain invisible amidst his abundance. As the three walked to the car, Ricardo felt the weight of doubt and hope. A lifetime built on business, contracts, and achievements seemed small compared to the possibility of being about to meet his own children. He opened the car door for them, something he had never done for anyone other than his late mother. The children hesitated, but accepted, trusting in the strange bond that seemed to unite them. As the engine roared and the car drove through the streets, Ricardo didn't know what he would find, but he was sure that his life would never be the same again. The drive to the children's neighborhood seemed endless. Ricardo Alencar kept his hands firmly on the steering wheel, but a storm raged within him. Accustomed to having absolute control over contracts, mergers, and corporate destinies, he now found himself without any certainty before two small lives sitting in the back seat of his car. Lucas stared out the window with disconcerting seriousness, as if carrying responsibilities far greater than his age warranted. Anna, on the other hand, admired the interior of the vehicle with childlike wonder, but also with shy caution, as if afraid to belong there. The contrast was stark. A $1 million car carrying two children who, minutes before, had been trying to survive by selling candy at traffic lights. As they approached the indicated neighborhood, the landscape changed drastically. The wide, brightly lit avenues gave way to narrow, poorly paved streets, with rickety streetlights that cast more shadows than light. The colorful but worn facades told stories of daily struggles for survival. Ricardo slowed down, observing every detail with teary eyes. How could life have been so cruel as to place his potential children in that setting, while he lived surrounded by luxury and abundance? Lucas pointed with his chin toward an alley. "It's there, sir. You can stop." His firm voice betrayed a sense of leadership, of protection. He clearly assumed the role of man of the house, and it made Ricardo's heart ache. The car glided slowly toward the small brick house, painted a faded blue, with rusted windows and a ragged roof. At the entrance, a vase of wilted flowers betrayed someone's struggle to maintain dignity amidst scarcity. Anna took her brother's arm, and together they got out of the car. Ricardo remained still for a few seconds, as if the weight of the scene prevented him from moving his legs. Finally, he took a deep breath and got out. The air in the neighborhood felt different, heavy with memories that weren't his, but somehow belonged to him. When they knocked on the door, the sound echoed through the silent house. After a few moments, it slowly opened, revealing a pale woman with delicate features, but visibly fragile. Her tired gaze lit up at the sight of her children, but soon filled with surprise and disbelief when she noticed the man accompanying them. Ricardo held his breath. There was no doubt. It was Clara. The same face he carried in his memory, now scarred by time and struggle. "Ricardo." Her voice came out weak, almost a whisper, as if saying that name would reopen an old wound. He couldn't answer right away. 1,000 memories exploded within him. The coffees they'd shared, the laughter of youth, the embrace that had once been home. But now before her, the weight of the past mingled with the guilt of never having sought it. Clara, holding the door with difficulty, stared at him with a mixture of surprise, pain, and resignation. "They are my children, aren't they?" Ricardo asked, the firmness of his voice contrasting with the trembling in his hands. Clara lowered her eyes, taking a deep breath. "They're ours, Ricardo. Lucas and Anna. I didn't want them to grow up with resentment. I preferred to raise them alone, even with all the difficulties." The silence that followed was devastating. Lucas, who until then had only been watching, placed himself in front of his mother like a shield. "We don't need anything, sir. We can always manage." The harshness of his words hid the vulnerability of a boy who shouldn't have to carry so much weight. Anna, with tears in her eyes, simply hugged her mother around the waist. Ricardo knelt down, reaching eye level with the boy. "You're right, Lucas. You've been strong, much stronger than you should have been, but you shouldn't have had to fend for yourselves. I should have been here." His voice cracked, thick with emotion. Clara watched in silence, the conflict within her palpable. Part of her wanted to push him away, protect her children from disappointment. Another part knew that no matter how hard she tried, his absence had left its mark. The sudden cough that struck her interrupted her thoughts, and Ricardo instinctively grabbed her arm, helping her steady herself. It was then that she realized the gravity of her condition. "Clara, you're sick." It wasn't a question, it was an observation. She nodded discreetly. "But I'll resist. They need me." Ricardo felt the weight of guilt crush him. How could he spend years ignoring the possibility that he had left behind not just a woman, but an entire family? While he rose in business, Clara struggled alone, and their children grew up selling candy at traffic lights. It was decided at that moment, nothing, absolutely nothing, would remain the same. "I'm taking you with me. You won't go through this again." And the decision came out of his mouth without room for argument. Lucas crossed his arms, suspicious. "And why now? Why did you only show up when we've already learned to live without you?" Ricardo swallowed hard, but didn't avoid the question. "Because I was blind, Lucas. Because I let ambition keep me from what was truly important. But I won't make the same mistake again." Clara looked at him with teary eyes. "What if it's too late?" He approached with the firmness of someone who no longer wanted to waste time. It's never too late when it comes to family. The atmosphere was charged with emotion. Anna, still hugging her mother, looked at Ricardo with innocent eyes. "Are you going to take care of Mom?" Ricardo gently held her hand. "I'll take care of all of you. It's a promise." At that moment, Clara realized that behind the CEO's imposing figure lay the same young man she had once loved, now marked by maturity and regret. There was truth in his words, and even though she was afraid, she decided to give him a chance. That night, Richard didn't return to his luxurious penthouse. He remained in that small blue house, sitting beside the children he was getting to know, and the woman who had never left his heart. The man who had built empires discovered amidst peeling walls and simple furniture the true meaning of wealth. The next day dawned differently for Ricardo Alencar. For the first time in many years, he awoke not surrounded by the cold silence of the luxurious penthouse, but by the soft sound of hurried footsteps, the sweet voice of a child, and the smell of plain coffee wafting from the kitchen. The small blue house that had once seemed like a portrait of scarcity now revealed itself as a home full of life, despite all its limitations. Lucas was already up, arranging boxes of sweets with the same discipline of an adult who needs to support a family. Anna, excited, combed her hair in front of a broken mirror, humming softly. Clara, still weighed down by her illness, tried to keep herself together, preparing breakfast as if it were a sacred ritual to start the day. Ricardo watched everything in silence, leaning against the doorframe with a mixture of awe and regret. How many years had he lost with those small gestures? How many birthdays? How many school stories? How many nights of fear had they lived without his presence? The weight of this absence fell on his shoulders like a sentence he could never erase. But at the same time, something new was being born in his heart, the conviction that there was still time to change, that he could still build something real with them. "You don't have to worry about selling candy today," he said suddenly, catching everyone's attention. "I want you to come with me." Lucas looked up suspiciously. "And where are we going?" "To my house," Ricardo replied firmly. "You deserve to know the life you should have had from the beginning." Clara, surprised, put her spoon down on the table. "Ricardo, I don't know if that's a good idea. They're not used to this world." He approached and in a calm but determined voice added, "Exactly for that reason. I want you to be with me. I want you to know that you are part of me." Lucas's gaze hardened. "We don't need your pity. We've always been able to handle this." Ricardo knelt before him, looking him in the eyes. "It's not pity, Lucas. It's love. I was wrong not to be here, but I want the chance to prove I can be your father." There was silence for a few seconds until Anna, with her innocent way, pulled her brother's hand. "Come on, Lou. I want to meet him." Lucas sighed, overcome by his sister's will, and nodded reluctantly. Clara, still suspicious, allowed Ricardo to lead them. The drive back to the city was marked by contrasts. The car glided along the wide avenues, reflecting off the windows of the skyscrapers. Inna was captivated by every detail: the illuminated shop windows, the tall buildings, the colorful billboards. Lucas remained silent, observing but without showing any emotion. Ricardo, behind the wheel, couldn't help but cast discreet glances in the rearview mirror, feeling his heart warm at the sight of them. Upon arriving at the penthouse, the reaction was immediate. Anna ran to the panoramic window, amazed by the view of the entire city at her feet. "It feels like we're in heaven," she exclaimed, enchanted. Lucas, on the other hand, remained with his arms crossed, suspicious, as if this place didn't belong to him. "This will be your home too if you want it," Ricardo stated, trying to break the boy's barrier, but Lucas didn't answer. He just glanced quickly at Clara, who had just entered, leaning discreetly on the billionaire's arm. There was emotion in her eyes, but also fear. The contrast between her life of struggle and that almost unreal luxury was painful. Their first meal together was revealing. A lavish table filled with dishes prepared by the staff, but the children were hesitant to touch the food. They were accustomed to sharing little, to saving every morsel. Ricardo noticed this and, in an unexpected gesture, pushed the staff aside, sat at the table with them, and began serving each dish with his own hands. "You don't have to worry here. I want you to feel at home." Anna smiled shyly and began to eat, but Lucas remained suspicious. "And then?" she asked, breaking the silence. "When you get tired of us, shall we go back to the street?" Ricardo felt the question pierce him like an arrow. "Never again," he answered firmly. "I promise you, you will never go hungry again. Never again will you sell candy at the lighthouse. You are my children, and I will take care of you." Clara watched the scene in silence, her tears streaming down her face. Deep down, she feared it was too good to be true, but she also knew the man before her was no longer the ambitious young man who had left her behind. There was regret, there was truth, there was a desire to make amends. That night, after the children slept in rooms that seemed to have come out of a dream, Ricardo sat beside Clara on the porch. The city glittered outside, but all he could think about was the woman who had carried the weight of a lifetime alone. "I should have been here from the start," he said, his voice breaking. "I can't change the past, but I want to build a future." Clara took a deep breath. "It won't be easy. They grew up without you, Ricardo. Lucas is afraid of getting attached and losing you again." He held her hand firmly. "Then I will prove every day that I will not leave." The news spread like wildfire. It only took a few hours for newspapers and gossip portals to publish the first headlines. "Billionaire CEO emerges with unknown children." Who are the children who changed Ricardo Alencar's life? Discreet photographs taken by curious neighbors and employees began to circulate. The image of two humble children entering a luxury penthouse in the heart of the city became one of the most talked about topics of the week. The corporate world, accustomed to controlling the tycoon's every move, now faced a turn of events no one could have predicted. Ricardo watched everything unfold in silence, sitting in his private meeting room. With each new headline his advisors placed on the table, he felt the weight of the trial grow. But contrary to what they expected, he showed no fear. There was a determination in his gaze that even those closest to him were unaware of. He was unwilling to back down. Not now, not after finally finding what he never knew he was missing. However, the company's board members didn't share this enthusiasm. An extraordinary meeting was called, and the glass room at the top of the skyscraper filled with serious faces. Men and women in ties, accustomed to speaking in figures and graphs, now had an almost personal concern in their eyes. The first to speak was Mr. Augusto Prado, one of the longest-serving directors. "Ricardo, we need to understand what's happening. The market is in turmoil. Investors are calling non-stop. This exposure, these children, this could cost us all dearly." Ricardo remained calm, intertwining his fingers on the table. "These children have names, Augusto. Lucas and Anna. They are my children, and no one will change their place in my life." A murmur of discomfort ran through the room. Another counselor, younger and more ambitious, didn't hesitate to press. "With all due respect, Mr. Alencar, your personal life is yours, but when it threatens our credibility, it becomes everyone's business. Who would trust a company whose CEO is embroiled in family scandals?" Ricardo leaned forward, his tone now firmer. "These aren't scandals. These are people, my own blood. If the market can't trust a man who takes responsibility for his own family, then maybe the problem isn't me, but the distorted view we've built of what leadership means." Silence fell heavily. For the first time, some advisors withdrew without immediate arguments. The cold man who had always resolved everything with calculations and strategies now spoke with passion, and that was disarming. Meanwhile, across town, Clara faced her own dilemma. Her health remained fragile, but her greatest concern was the impact of the sudden change on her children's lives. Lucas was resilient, always on guard, as if expecting everything to fall apart at any moment. Inna, on the other hand, adapted quickly, enchanted by each new development, but still carrying the shyness of someone who didn't believe she deserved so much. Clara watched them both closely, and deep down, she feared that by entering that world, they would lose the essence she had fought so hard to preserve. At school, the contrast was also felt. Ricardo didn't hesitate to enroll his children in one of the city's most renowned schools. On the first day, news flashes followed their arrival, and the curious looks from his classmates were no different from those of the adult elite, a mix of astonishment, judgment, and curiosity. Lucas felt each look like an arrow, but remained firm, protecting his sister at every step. Anna, for her part, hid behind him until a classmate with a genuine smile offered her friendship. It was the first spark of acceptance in an environment that seemed built of invisible walls. Ricardo, meanwhile, was facing battles on another front. Meetings became more tense, investors demanded explanations, and the press was relentless. Reporters surrounded him at every public appearance, questioning his private life. Why are you only now coming out to your children? Are you trying to clean up your image? The questions were sharp, but he answered firmly, I'm doing what I should have done years ago, and I don't owe them any explanations other than the truth. They're my family. This stance divided opinion. Many critics accused him of hypocrisy. Others saw him as a rare example of authenticity amid the cold world of business. But above all, there was one truth impossible to ignore. Ricardo Alencar was no longer the same. At home, nights were different. The man who once dined alone at huge tables now shared simple meals, listening to school stories, laughing at Anna's antics, admiring Lucas's precocious intelligence. Little by little, the walls erected between them began to crumble. Clara, watching, let out long stolen smiles. One night, while the city slept, Ricardo entered the children's room. Lucas was pretending to be asleep, but his father noticed his heavy breathing. He sat beside the bed and spoke softly. I know you still don't trust me. I know you think I could leave at any moment. But I want you to know one thing. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here, always. Lucas didn't answer, but a single tear slipped from the corner of his closed eyes. Ricardo wiped it away discreetly and stood up, leaving the boy with his heart torn between fear and hope. Winter arrived, bringing with it colder nights and grey days. In the luxurious penthouse, now teeming with life, the warmth of children's laughter seemed to counter the heavy atmosphere surrounding the family. But behind the smiles lurked a shadow no one could ignore. Clara's health was deteriorating. Her coughing fits became more frequent, her pallor more evident, and her fatigue more intense. Ricardo, accustomed to solving problems with money and influence, discovered that his power had limits. Renowned doctors were hired, sophisticated tests performed, and the diagnosis came as a blow. Clara needed urgent treatment, perhaps even delicate surgery, but her chances of recovery depended as much on medicine as on her own willpower. Lucas was the first to react. The boy, already marked by precocious responsibility, withdrew even further. He began to avoid conversations, spending hours in silence, carrying on his face the pain of someone fearing losing the foundation that had sustained his entire life. Anna, on the other hand, sought to hide her anguish with innocence. She drew pictures for her mother, sang songs softly, and always said, "It's going to be okay, Mommy." But Clara knew her struggle was real and arduous. Ricardo, faced with this, found himself powerless. He spent sleepless nights beside Clara's bed, watching her sleep, remembering the past, and punishing himself for the lost time. If I had stayed, if I had chosen differently, he murmured to himself. She, even weakened, smiled and said, "The important thing is that you're here now." But the outside world was relentless. The press continued to press, suggesting that Ricardo was using Clara's illness as a way to raise public awareness. The company's board members questioned his leadership abilities in the face of so many personal problems. But he no longer cared. The man who had previously put business above all else now had a clear understanding of what truly mattered. On a particularly difficult night, Clara suffered a severe seizure and had to be rushed to the hospital. Lucas, upon seeing his mother being taken away, exploded at Ricardo. "If she dies, it'll be your fault," he shouted, tears in his eyes. "You abandoned her. You left us alone." The words struck Ricardo like daggers. He didn't try to defend himself. He simply grabbed the boy's shoulder and said, "I know, Lucas, I know I was wrong, but I'll do everything I can to keep her alive, no matter the cost." For the next few days, Ricardo stayed by Clara's side without leaving. He cancelled meetings, delegated responsibilities, and dedicated every second to overseeing her treatment. Ina, innocent, carried flowers she picked from the rooftop gardens, believing they would help her mother get better. Lucas, even from a distance, couldn't help but draw closer, silently observing Ricardo's dedication. Little by little, the boy began to realize that this man wasn't just passing through. The climax came on a rainy morning. Clara went into surgery, and the waiting room became an emotional battlefield. Ricardo paced back and forth, his hands trembling, his eyes fixed on the door that seemed never to open. Lucas, sitting next to his sister, finally spoke, his voice breaking. "If she doesn't come back, I'll never forgive you." Ricardo knelt before him, his eyes brimming with tears. "If that happens, Lucas, blame me. I deserve it. But know this, I will never abandon you and your sister again. Never again." The boy, for the first time, saw truth in his father's eyes. He didn't respond, but he let Ricardo hold his hand. It was a small gesture, but full of meaning. After endless hours, the doctor finally left the room. "The surgery was a success. Now we just have to wait for recovery." The words were received like a breath of life. Anna hugged her father and brother tightly, and even Lucas let out a tear of relief. In the following days, Clara began to recover, still frail, but showing signs of improvement. Ricardo tirelessly reorganized his life to be present. He took the children to school, helped with their homework, and ate dinner with them every night. He discovered to his amazement that there was pleasure in simple things, listening to Anna tell a made-up story, watching Lucas solve a math problem with a twinkle in his eye, watching Clara smile, even when tired. Little by little, the family began to rebuild. Trust wasn't born overnight, but through daily gestures, constant presence, and promises kept. Ricardo understood that winning his children's love was a slow process, but he was willing to take every step. And Clara, strengthened by the struggle, saw something unfold before her that she had never believed possible. The chance for a life where she would no longer have to carry the burden alone. The sun rose lazily behind the city buildings, casting golden rays over the rooftop that, months ago, had been nothing more than a cold, silent space. Now that home breathed life. Anna's laughter echoed through the hallways, the sound of Lucas's lessons mingled with the clinking of cutlery in the kitchen, and even Clara's silence, reclining in a soft armchair, seemed imbued with serenity. The surgery was behind her, and although her health still required care, the improvement was visible. The rosy hue had returned to her face, her strength was slowly returning, and above all, there was a gleam in her eyes that time had not been able to dim. The gleam of hope. Ricardo, who had always begun his days immersed in reports and meetings, now had a new ritual. He made a point of having breakfast with his family. He watched Anna tell made-up stories with enthusiasm, saw Lucas correct his sister with patience and intelligence, and smiled as he realized that this simple table with fresh bread and fruit was worth more than all the banquets he had ever attended. The man who had been shaped by million-dollar contracts finally understood that true wealth was right there before him in the warmth of a family. But not everything was simple. Lucas still maintained barriers. Although he had begun to respect his father's dedication, the fear of abandonment still haunted him. He often looked at Ricardo with suspicion, as if hoping it would all be temporary. Ricardo, however, tirelessly demonstrated day after day that he was there to stay. He took his son to soccer practice, watched his matches closely, cheered with every victory, and consoled him in defeats. Little by little, the boy began to allow small, albeit reluctant, glimmers of trust to emerge. Inna, for her part, had no reservations. For her, Ricardo was the father she'd always dreamed of. She held his hand, called him Daddy without fear, and drew family pictures with everyone gathered around. Her every gesture warmed the billionaire's heart, who, despite his power and influence, was moved by the simplicity of being called by that title. Clara observed everything with a mixture of joy and caution. She knew life could be unpredictable, but she also felt that for the first time, she was no longer alone. One serene evening, sitting on the balcony lit by the city beyond, she confessed to Ricardo, "I spent years believing you had forgotten us, and in a way, that gave me strength. I had to be both mother and father at the same time. But now I see that perhaps life was just waiting for the right moment to reunite us." Ricardo held her hand firmly. "It wasn't life, Clara. It was my mistake. I chose the wrong path. I let ambition blind me, but I promise you, I will never again let anything or anyone be above you." Weeks turned into months, and the impact of this new phase began to echo beyond the penthouse walls. The press, which had previously been critical, began to admire the CEO's transformation. Headlines like, "The millionaire who discovered true wealth." Word began to circulate, and even the most skeptical investors recognized that this change hadn't diminished his leadership. On the contrary, it had made him more human, more inspiring. Social projects were created in the company's name, many of them inspired by the story of Clara and the children. Ricardo decided to fund programs to support vulnerable families, ensuring education, healthcare, and decent housing. It was his way of not only making amends for his personal mistake, but also of reaching out to others who lived in the same conditions as his children. The climax of the family's transformation came on a sunny weekend. Ricardo decided to organize a special lunch on the rooftop garden, bringing together not only Clara and her children, but also close friends and some of the employees who had become part of this new life. Lucas, still shy about showing his feelings, surprised everyone by standing up during the meal and saying, "I didn't believe this was possible. I thought it would just be another broken promise, but you've shown that you're here. And so I want to say that I see you as my father." Tears filled Ricardo's eyes. The man who never showed emotion in public now wept unabashedly, hugging his son tightly. Inna rushed to join the embrace, and Clara, overcome with emotion, watched from afar, knowing this was the moment that sealed the rebirth of her family. From that moment on, the days took on a different color. Lucas became lighter, Anna more confident, Clara more serene. Ricardo, in turn, experienced a feeling he had never known: fulfillment. He was no longer just a CEO, a billionaire, a name splashed across magazines. He was a father, a companion, a man transformed by love. And if this story spoke to your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Here on our channel, we believe that every story can be a seed of hope. capable of transforming lives, inspiring courage, and showing that miracles still happen. So, if you want to continue following powerful, moving stories full of twists and turns, click here now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming stories that we are already preparing with great care for you. Share this video with someone you love, as it may be just the message they need to hear today. And let us know in the comments what you felt, because your opinion is an essential part of this community of faith, overcoming, and transformation. Together, we can take this chain of inspiration even further. Remember, every like, every subscription, and every comment helps us reach more people and keep this mission of touching hearts through stories alive. So be part of this family that grows every day, and never forget, you too are the protagonist of your own story.